All right, what's up, family? Now, this is not going to be a hit piece on Charlie Chase. What I want to do is really try to lock down the chronology and get the history right. Also, what we're going to dive into is whether or not his new version of what hip-hop was like in terms of race relationships is different from what he has said in the past. Okay? So, like, again, it's not a hit piece, but we're going to try to get things corrected. All right? So let's start out with his biography and how he lays it out, because his timeline as far as being a hip-hop DJ is 75. And so, now the problem with that is that when you say you were doing break beats and all that in 1975, what you're doing, you're putting yourself in the same category as people like Herc, Smokey, and Mario. All right? You clearly came later. So now what I've discovered, you probably was some kind of DJ, but you certainly wasn't a hip hop DJ. So what is a hip hop DJ? Basically, it's just a guy, a DJ who played for either the B-boys or they played for rappers. All right. So if you weren't doing that in 75, you can't call yourself a hip hop DJ in 75. So this is the area we're going to deal with. Let's talk about his bio.
My name is DJ Charlie Chase of the world famous Cold Crush Brothers, the legendary Cold Crush Brothers, or as Grandmaster Kaz likes to call us, the architects of hip hop. Started back in 1975 in the Bronx, basically with a crew called Tom and Jerry. It was a disco DJ group. They were actually members of my band. One day, I went to the keyboards player's house to pick him up to go to a gig that we had. And when I went inside his house, he was DJing, and I had never actually seen DJing before. It was the first time I had ever seen that. And I was watching, you know, the way he was working it, the mechanics, how it was making it happen, and I like the flow, and being that I'm kind of a techie nerd person, where just watching all that really, you know, excited me, and I caught interest in that. And a couple of times of going back to see him and watching him do it, I caught the bug and decided to want to be a DJ. I come from a family of musicians, and I've always liked the funk, and I've always liked rock, and I've always liked funk music and soul music. That was always in my blood. I grew up listening to Sly Stone and all that. So when I first heard guys rhyming on a mic, you know, and they weren't even really rhyming like we were rhyming then. They would just like blurt out little things and little nursery rhymes here and there. That combined with the DJ mixing beats, you know, and certain records, and they weren't really mixing them that well either. They were just trying to mix at that time. Remember, we're at the early stages of hip-hop. So when I saw that, I was really intrigued by that. And I said, this is what I want to do. This is like, I was already a DJ and a musician. I was already playing in a band. But when I saw that, I said, this is what I want to do. This is the kind of music I want to DJ.
All right, so he clearly gives the indication that everything started in 75. Let me refer to an article from the Red Bull Academy, and he offers an interview in that as well. So he pretty much echoes in this article what he just said previously in the video, but I just want to highlight some things. Okay, interviewer asked him, so I want to find out your story. How do you get into DJing? I come from a family of musicians. My grandfather was a songwriter and musician for a lot of Spanish bands. My father was the same thing, and it was passed down to me. I earned my first professional dollar for music at the age of 14. At the age of 16, I had produced my first album. I was a bassist. I already was telling a lot of older guys what to do in the studio, and then I was in a band, a Spanish band playing merengue and shit like that. It was relatively a young band, and the keyboard player had just got into DJing. He had bought 2 turntables and a mixer at the time, and was the size of the recorder there, pointing to a Walkman on the table. Just the 2 plugs in the back and 1 crossfader, and that was it. What year would that be? We're talking 74, 75 in the Bronx. He was starting to play. He was practicing in his house. I saw him getting into it, and I was fascinated with it. At the time, I was a musical sponge. Anything music related, I wanted to know about it or do or get into it. Then he and the drummer in the band became a team, a DJ team. They were called Tom and Jerry, and they were always playing disco, the real heavy club disco, not hip-hop disco, but just disco. But me, I was always an R&B guy in the group, always into funk. I always had a major funk, always was a major funk fan. So my shit was playing the R&B stuff and the funk stuff. And one day I heard this bunch of kids, really young, from around my way, called themselves the Monterey Crew. There were about 5 of them. They all chipped their pennies together and got them the best equipment they could get for the money, and which was not much. This was 75, 76. This happened around the same time. Now, I have a problem with that 75, 76, and we're going to see why. This is all happening really quick. I was in the community center. I'm listening to them playing the beats, and I'm like, this is what I want to play. This other shit is boring. You know, what made Disco DJ fun was the technical side of it, being able to take these 2 machines and sync them musically. That was the fun and the challenge to it. What were they playing? They were just, Scratch wasn't even out then. So they were just taking one record, playing it, then take another record and blending it in behind it. Sometimes they would have 2 copies of the same record. If they could afford it, they tried to mix them the best they could. Just playing the breaks. They were just playing the breaks, matching them up, playing them one right behind the other. I was amazed. One of my favorite records of all time was Dennis Coffey's Scorpio, and they took the break in Scorpio and extended it, which was my favorite part of the record. I was like, this shit is the bomb. This was the Monterey Community Center, which is why they call themselves the Monterey Crew. We were all from the same area. I lived across the street from the Monterey Projects, and they lived in it. Is this 75? And they were just little kids? Yeah. Little kids, nobodies. Now, here's the problem. It wasn't 75. I'm going to prove it. I can't say much. I can't say nobodies, but they're doing their thing. So I'm like, oh, shit, this is different. They're bringing back again to the beginning of the break and again. And then they're playing Trans Europe Express by Kraftwerk and shit. I'm like, oh, man, this is awesome. Then they were playing beats I never heard in my life that sounded really effing cool. Now, here's the problem. And then they were playing Trans Europe Express by Kraftwerk. The problem is Trans Europe Express comes out in 1977. Now, sometimes when you listen to people tell their story, they condense it in such a way you think they're talking about it in terms of months. But we're talking about in years. He became a DJ in 75, but a disco DJ, not a hip hop DJ. Okay. Now, then I thought, you know what? Maybe he probably misspoke. Maybe it really was 75, 76. So then I found this video.
One day I went to pick them up for rehearsal, and we were getting ready to go to play at a club that night in Brooklyn. And I went upstairs to pick them up. And when I came into the apartment, they were DJing. There was 2 turntables and this little mixer. Mind you, the mixer was this big. It was a little, we're talking about 75, you know. Right. So I see them mixing disco music, Casablanca records and the Village People and all that stuff that was happening at that time. But what intrigued me, I'm a nerd, I'm a techie, I'm a nerd for stuff like that. And the mechanics of the way they were mixing one record with another on beat and the way they were using it intrigued me. So several times of me going up there to pick them up, I saw that and I decided that I wanted to do that too. So right. I started buying my own disco records to DJ and play. And around the corner from my house was the Monterey Projects. It was on 180th and La Fontaine, which is a block away from Arthur Avenue. If anybody knows about Arthur Avenue, you know that.
Let's go, BX. What's up?
So there lived a DJ crew called the Monterey Crew, which was Ronald and Glad Eye and a few other guys that were in the group. Now, we used to hang out in the community center a lot to play sports and ping pong and all that other stuff. So that one night I went into the community room to go play ping pong, and they had taken the main room, and I hear music coming out of that room. And it's dark. Man, I mean, it's pitch black in there. It's crowded. It's pitch black. And all you could see was like a light from the back of the room, a light. That's all that was on. So I'm hearing the music that they're playing, and I'm like, this is different, but I know the music because it's funk tracks, rock tracks, and stuff like that I've known, that I've heard on the radio, and I played myself with my band. So I open the door and walk in a room to see what's up, and I walk to the front, and I see the guys, the Monterey crew. But I'm noticing that they're playing breakbeats, like early breakbeats, like not even scratching it back and forth. They were just playing stuff like Kraftwerk, Trans-Europe Express.
So there you have it. You heard him say Trans-Europe Express. He pretty much said the same thing he said in the written interview. All right. So it wasn't a mistake. So for him to mention Kraftwerk in 1977, this was the first year that he was exposed to break beats. Now, this clip is important because when you listen to Charlie Chase's story, how he got his name, he said he was chasing Flash, right? Now, when you look up in Wikipedia, Flash active date or year is 78. Charlie is 75, which one might believe that Charlie came first. But yet Charlie says he was chasing Flash and that he was already established. So something is wrong with those dates and those years. Let's play it.
You know, one of the things that the way that my name came about was because I wanted to battle Grandmaster Flash at the time. And Flash was one of the kids in the neighborhood who was already established. She was already DJing. And this is pre-scratching now. We're talking before even the scratch was created, you know, and all of that. And that's how my name came about, because I was trying to come up with different concepts for a name, because, I mean, my real name is Carlos Mendez. Can you imagine somebody, yeah, DJ Carlos Mendez in hip-hop? Nah, man, I was not going to fly, you know. So I said I need a stage name. So I came up with the stage name Charlie Chase, because I figured, you know, Flash was ahead of me and I'm behind him, and it's like I'm chasing him. So I said that fits perfectly. Let me call myself Charlie Chase.
All right. So that's half the story.
For me, how hip hop started for me, it was in one of the community rooms. There was no light in there. It was dark as hell. Place was jam-packed. It was a sweat box, and all you could see was this one light over the turntables, and he was playing that kind of music. And when I saw what he was doing to the crowd and the type of music that he was playing was the music that turned me on, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. I said to myself, I'm never going to get my foot in the door as Carlos Mendez, because this is hip-hop. You know, you got Flash, you got Theodore, you got all these cats, and they're all black. You know, I like playing this music, but I'm in Spanish. I'm not going to be accepted if I go out there as DJ Carlos Mendez. Just the name alone is going to make you not want to come in the door.
So here he is acknowledging that hip-hop, when he was coming up, was a black thing. You know, but you're going to see in another video or another excerpt of a video where he's going to try to paint a different picture of what it was like in the 70s. Now I'm going to use this article about Grandmaster Flash because it's going to help set up some time, some years here, so we get the chronology right, okay? Here we go. Born in Barbados but raised in New York, Grandmaster Flash, a.k.a. Joseph Sattler, was an electronics student with the desire born of seeing his heroes, Pete DJ Jones and Kool Herc, to turn the music they were playing into an art form. I didn't find the way he played exciting, says Flash of Herc. A lot of people agree with that statement. What I found exciting was that he was playing, well, what he was playing. Kool Herc had the idea of eschewing the disco hits of the day, the Donna Summers, the Tramps, in favor of old funk records. Now, think about this, and we're going to try to chronologize this thing here. Donna Summers' first hit was Love to Love You, Baby. That's 1975. So, and the Tramps' hit in 76 was Disco Inferno. So that's pretty much the timeline we're talking about, 75, 76. So let's continue. Keep that in mind. That's important. Okay, let me see where we were. Okay. More than that, though, was mainly playing breaks. Those instruments, instrumentally sparse and rhythms, heavy parts of the record that where dancers could really cut loose. Okay, now here's where it gets interesting. Flash's idea was simple. He would take the types of tunes played by Herc and assimilate them using the methods of beat mixing he's seen employed by DJ like Pete DJ Jones. Now, understand, Pete DJ Jones is not considered hip-hop, but everybody learned from these early DJs like Flowers and Pete DJ Jones, okay? What I liked about Pete's style is that he kept the music continuous. He didn't take out a certain section of the record or continuously go back and forth. He just kept everything going. In his bedroom and aided by his understanding of electronics, Flash worked on a new style of playing for 3 whole years. So think about what I said about Donna Summers and the Tramps, 75, 76. If you add 3 years to that, we're talking 78. If you go on Wikipedia and you look where it says under Flash, years active, it'll say 78. It kind of lines up. Now, here's what's interesting. How could a person have started, and now we're talking about Charlie Chase, who started in 75, be chasing someone who started in 78? Something is wrong with the chronology. You understand what I'm saying? Something is wrong with that chronology. Now, I played this clip in a previous video, but I'm going to feature Charlie Chase answering this question, okay? So here we go.
That was Puerto Rican.
All right, I'm going to ask you guys a serious question. It's up to you guys if you want to answer or not. Do you think we had to be officially sanctioned by black people to get into the space that we're in now with hip-hop?
I think what you're trying to say was, did we need the black artists to validate us in the business, right?
You know why? Because for myself, I always thought that's what separated me from my other Latino brothers and sisters in the game. And remember, I'm not coming from the 70s. I'm coming in the early 90s, right? And so me being...
So crazy.
Listen, people, look. Me being down with BET, Kiss FM, Notorious Biggs, DJ, all these were black entities. And it separated me from all my other Hispanic guys. So then, when I was in the black space, no one ever questioned or doubted my dopeness or what I brought to the table. Because I was sanctioned by these big things. That's why I asked you if...
I think you were sanctioned by your dopeness.
No, I believe that. But I'm
you
just
were
saying,
trash, forget it.
But I'm just saying on top of it. It's just like an extra check.
Well, you know, coming from where I come from, I never even thought of it that way. Like, you know,
Come on, Charlie. You're on videotape. Let's hear him. I'm going to hear him out.
All my life, my best friends were black. All my life. I played in black bands, funk bands, rock bands. I mean, I played on, so it was all natural to me. Now, as far as the music goes, Latin music and funk music, R&B music, it all has a type of swing, a relative swing to
African
it.
roots anyway.
So it came, funk and R&B.
The African card.
Became music very naturally to it. Play a Latin record and black people around tell me they ain't gonna move.
They're gonna move.
It's the natural thing, man, you know? So I never even realized that there was this whole thing between black and Hispanics until much later on. Now, the first time I realized that it was a thing was at a Zulu Nation meeting we had at the Irving Center downtown. I think it was Irving or Manhattan Center downtown. It was a big meeting. We're sitting there, bunch of Zulus all over the place. One conversation led to another, and you know, somebody on the mic, and one guy, which is what blew my mind, he steps up and he says, "Yo, we gotta give props to the first Puerto Rican DJ in hip hop, DJ Charlie Chase." And I'm like, and they're getting up and clapping and all this, and I'm like, what? Because I never thought like that.
You were baffled behind the car. They're just bigging you up, but at the same time,
they
you were baffled.
bigging me up.
Like,
it wasn't an insult.
I wasn't trying to be separate from anybody.
Because I never thought of it.
But it indirectly causes a separation.
It does.
Now he's blaming, hear that what Crazy Lake said? He's saying that by giving some big ups to Charlie Chase for being the first Puerto Rican hip-hop DJ, we're being divisive. See, this is where this is going. Us telling the truth is being divisive. Now, see, Charlie, he's on a different thing now, where he's trying to come off as if it was all kumbaya. And there was no issue of race. Let me remind you guys what he actually said years ago.
Every time we'd go somewhere, and me and Tony would go together, they would say, hey, they would make announcements, DJ Charlie Chase and Tony Tone's in the house. So people would come over to say what's up to us, but they'd walk over to me and say, yo, Tony, what's up? And because they knew Charlie Chase was bad on the 1 and 2s, but they figured the black guy was Charlie Chase because they couldn't picture a Puerto Rican rocking the 1 and 2s the way they heard it on the cassettes. And Tony,
because hip hop was Black American culture, Charlie.
He would say, no, I'm Tony. That's Charlie. And they'd have this stunned look on their eyes like, really? You know, like for real? They didn't believe it. They wouldn't believe it until they actually saw me play. And then they accepted it then. But the problem that I was having with that was that I was getting a lot of pushback. There was a lot of prejudice in the sense that the blacks were telling me, you know what, man, go back to your cowbells and your music. You know, you don't belong here. And then the Hispanics were telling me, what the hell are you doing, man? What are you doing playing that Jungle Bunny music, you know? And I was getting criticized by both sides. What are you doing? And, you know, me, I always stuck to my guns. I never listened to what anybody said. I put on my blinders and I focused and I said, this is what I'm doing. Whether you fucking like it or not, this is what I'm doing.
Now, here's another example of Charlie Chase telling the truth about the history at the Latin hip hop panel discussion. It's funny that the actual whole video is no longer on YouTube. I can't find it. But I was able to find this little clip. And so the host is going to ask a question which tells you everything you need to know about who created hip hop. She's going to ask whether or not, how come hip hop is considered Black culture? Think about that. Why would you be even asking that question if it was created by both Latinos and Blacks? Here we go.
Since this conference is called as Hip Hop History, we need to go back and start with our foundation. So we're going to talk a little bit about history. I had mentioned before that, you know, in more recent times, hip hop had been kind of described more as a Black thing. And unfortunately, tonight, all of you will be on the panel, representatives for all Latinos tonight. Having said that, do you feel Latinos in general have also seen it that way too? Again, referring to hip-hop being considered a Black thing. And what roles did Latinos play in the inception of hip-hop? Anyone can start off and we can pass the mic.
I guess I'll set this off. When I first started as a DJ, in 75, when I was just getting into it and I was watching like one of my heroes is Grandmaster Flash, who also became like a nemesis, but you know, we're really good friends, you know. But anyway, as I was getting into, but I wanted to battle him, yeah. But anyway, as I was getting into the music, and I remember playing beats. I was playing great beats in my house, and I'm making all kinds of noise, and I'm driving my mother crazy. And people that would come to my house, or sometimes I bring my set out into the park. People would criticize me, Latinos especially. Like they would tell me, "What are you doing playing that Jungle Bunny music?" You know, like they were really opposed to me doing this. You know, because they said, "You're Latino, you know, do what you're supposed to do." And it's like, supposed to do, you know what I mean? I didn't know I was supposed to do anything.
All right, so here, see, now he's telling the truth about the history. Now, juxtapose that to what he just said recently, where he acts as if he was unaware that there was a color issue. See, you have to understand something. In order to claim co-creation or part of the creation of hip-hop, you have to present this image that everything was kumbaya, that there was no racial issues, everybody got along, because if that's true, then you could explain how we learn from each other. We took a part of their culture, they took a part of our culture, and we created this thing. So now they have to present this image that everything was okay. There were no problems. This is why Crazy Legs mentions that we're being divisive by pointing to the separation. So this is the ploy. And this is why the industry is putting so much effort in trying to put a Latino face, because they need to present that image, because they have to sell this thing internationally. It's already internationally sold, sold, but they have to, project and maintain that image for future revenues. This can't be a Black creation. It can't be. So maybe somebody was in Charlie Chase's ear, said, listen, you got to change the narrative here. You got to say we all got along. Because how else are you going to explain we did this together? This is my opinion. Because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. All right, so like I said, this is not about a hit piece on Charlie. We're just trying to get the record straight, get the chronology right, get the history correct. That's all we're trying to do here. Try to paint a more accurate picture of the history. All right? All right, that's enough for today. Listen, please like, subscribe, share. All right? Until the next time, peace.